Today, we're diving into a world where imagination, athleticism, and youthful spirit come together in a truly unique way: hobby horsing. And guiding us through this high-jumping, hoof-free arena is the inspiring Kht Shetty, a 20-year-old hobby horse show jumper and coach who's transforming a playful pastime into something powerful and meaningful. Let's saddle up and explore what it means to be a horse hobbyist. Welcome to the ride. Welcome to Journey with Jake. This is a podcast about adventure and how through our adventures we can overcome the challenges of life that come our way. While I expect you will learn some things about different adventures, this show will entertain you. Each episode will feature a different guest or guests as they share experiences and stories from the different adventures they have been on. Not only will you be entertained, but you will also hear the failures and trials each guest faces and what they have done or are doing to overcome the hardships that come their way. My goal is to take each of us on a journey through the experiences of my guests with the hope that you'll be entertained and inspired to overcome your day-to-day challenges. After all, it's not all about the destination as it is about the journey. Jump in, just a quick reminder, make sure you're following me on Instagram and YouTube at Journey with Jake Podcast, and don't forget to hit subscribe wherever you listen so you never miss an episode. I'm proud also to be part of the Podmatch Podcast Network, connecting amazing guests with shows like this one. Today I'm joined by Kht Shetty, a 20-year-old hobby horsing competitor and coach. What I love about Shetty's journey is her passion for a sport that often gets misunderstood. Alongside the joy and creativity of hobby horsing, she also faces criticism and hate online, but her resilience and commitment shine through. And just a note, for those of you who are watching on YouTube, Shetty asked not to be on video for this episode, and so throughout the episode on YouTube today, you'll see some still photos in place of us actually talking to each other. I want to respect Shetty's wishes with this request. If you enjoy this episode, I think you'll also enjoy episode 114 with scuba diver Julia Ugias, who takes us under the sea on her own remarkable journey. All right, let's get on to my conversation with Shetty. I'm excited today because I have someone on the show that I'm excited to talk to just because of what I see her doing. She's doing hobby horsing. I don't really know what that is. She's going to tell us all about it and what it is. Kht, did I say it right? Kht Shetty? Did I say it right?
Yep.
Did I mess it up?
There you go. That's
Very
right.
good. Welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to talk about hobby horsing and share my journey with you. Not the first podcast that I'm doing, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Excellent. Well, I'm glad to have you here. I feel fortunate that I get to have you on the show. Journey with Jake is an adventure podcast, but it's about your journey, who you are. I came across your Instagram account and saw some videos, and I was like, this is amazing what you're doing. You've got this horse, on a stick that you're jumping over these obstacles. And I thought, this is really cool. I love it. So I'm excited to hear your story. Before we dive into that, little background. Your accent's a little bit different than mine. Where are you from? Where did you grow up? That sort of thing.
Yeah, I come from Poland. I have lived in Poland my whole life. Yeah, never really moved out and never really wanted to move out yet. Yeah, this is where I come from. So Central Europe. And also I was lucky enough to have hobby horsing introduced quite early, in its development state. It started actually to develop in Scandinavian countries, so mostly Finland and Sweden, but then the rest of the Europe caught up.
Very good. So it kind of developed Finland, Sweden, that area, Scandinavian countries. You're doing it in Poland. You're from Poland. You're young. You're only 20 years old. So, you get your whole life ahead of you, so to speak. But you said you picked it up kind of early. Do you remember, were you just a little girl? Do you remember when you first kind of picked it up and what drew you to hobby horsing?
Before I started hobby horsing, I actually already rode actual horses, real horses. Horse riding was first introduced to my life in 2013. So that's 12 years ago. That's a while. And then in 2016, I saw a video on a Facebook from the hobby horse competition. And since, in the horse riding world, when you are in the stable with friends, you just naturally prance around obstacles and, you just have fun with your friends at the stable. it's a natural thing for all the equestrians to do, is to, just go, jump, have fun. And since I was already doing that, I also, in my secondary school, I also already did a lot of sport. I played handball, I ran, triathlons, pentathlons, like a lot of sports in my life, in the early years of my life. And since horse riding and sports was already connecting, these two things, and also by introducing horse riding to my life, I started collecting these little horse models, like the figurines and these little models. I also started making some equipment to like handmade works for them just for fun. So when I was first introduced to hobby horsing and I saw that video, I was like, wow, this connects all these things that I love doing into one. And like the only thing that changes is basically the scale of it. And obviously in hobby horsing we don't have the real animal working with us, but like the sense of the competition rules of hobby horsing plus the athleticism plus the handmade work was all these three things that I really love doing. Yeah, hobby horsing just allowed me to, pursue all three of them in one sport.
That's amazing to think about. And I haven't really thought about it like that. The first thing I noticed with you is, your amazing athletic ability. I mean, you're jumping over some pretty high obstacles. You're moving around pretty good. I like how you said when you were, younger, you're just equestrians hanging out. You're kind of prancing around anyway. So you kind of have that going for you. That drew me because I remember seeing a movie called The Man from Snowy River, which was about horses back when I was, 12 or 13 years ago. And I remember I would kind of gallop around, all the time. And so when I saw you doing this, I'm like, okay, you're doing more than just jumping over things. You're actually acting like the horse, which is cool. Then you've got the handmade, like these custom horses, which is pretty neat. So you've got all kinds of, like you said, three different things all wrapped into one that's right up your alley, fits who you are. And I can tell that and I can see that. And it's fun to hear about it. How about your family? Any kind of role that your family had to play? Do you have any siblings or anything like that? Or what about your parents? What did they think?
So I'm the only child, which is exactly what haters would say that I am as a hobby horser. This is funny, but like in social media, when I post about hobby horsing and generally in hobby horsing in social media, there is like a lot of hate going on, and it's the activity in itself, it's completely harmless. So this amount of hate is absolutely unreasonable. Now that we are diving into this, my family, I was really lucky to have my family really supportive of my initiatives, if that makes sense. They helped me get into horse riding, which was my idea. I have never had an athletic family, really. None of my family members have ever been professional athletes. None of them rode horses. So I am the first in the lineage, let's say, to actually go and pursue this horse riding stuff. I'm really lucky. I feel really lucky that they allowed me to just do my own thing and discover what I really love. Because I think this is very much important nowadays, now that the world is developing so fast, that the parents just give the children some space to find themselves. Because there is just so much going on that we don't really know what to do with this, and we don't know which path to take, and we want to be perfect at everything, and we are just left with we don't know what to look at, who to look up to, and it becomes overwhelming. So I think it was very important in my case, it was really important that my parents were really supportive of what I was doing. And they still are. They still come with me to the events that I host. They help me with the events. So, for example, my mom is often sitting at the registration table for the competitors. My father, for example, is going around with the camera to catch some content for the event. But they have always been very supportive, and I really very, very much appreciate that. So I was lucky to have that.
I'm glad you have that support. Okay, you talked about competitions. It sounds like you host some yourself. You do a lot. I want to dive into that in a minute. You kind of brought up the hate thing, and I was watching, some of your reels, and yeah, I'm reading through the comments, and I'm like, what is with people? Like, I don't understand it. I don't get it. How do you do it? Because you got an Instagram page, you got a lot of followers, you got a lot of, a lot of views, but then you get these people who are just making these hateful comments about what you're doing, which is totally, like you said, harmless. It's a great thing for community and things like that, I think, in my mind. How do you deal with that when you see some of these comments and things? How do you handle it? What do you do to kind of overcome that?
That's a good question. That's a really great question. I think important thing to note is that by entering the social media world, you agree to being prone to all this hate. And it's not just about hobbyhorsing, it's about everything. Like, the more views you get, the more, the more prone you are to being perceived as someone you are not, or people are more likely to assume something about you and spread rumors about you. And it's like, unfortunately, this has become a natural order of things, that by entering the social media world, you get the hate. What is more important here is that you need to find yourself in all this, because I do a lot of stuff with the community. So, like, the most important part of the opinions of the people that really count for me are the opinions of the people who belong to the community, because this community is who I work for as the host, as the person that shares the content about hobby horsing in a way that, for example, helps them jump higher or run faster, or like, become better in their own discipline. And I think with time, that now that I have seen basically every possible awful, disgusting, discouraging comment about hobbyhorsing that you could have possibly imagined, I have got it all. Like, I have got it in the comments, in the DMs, in email, like, everywhere. And it starts with hobbyhorsing, obviously. At this point, when these videos go viral, you can also get, like, death threats. And yeah, that's how far people can go for you publishing literally stick horses, right, in the internet. The other thing is that I think it's very much important to mention that right now I'm full of age. I'm 20. I understand a lot more than I did when I first started in social media. I don't really luckily, I don't really recall me going all over my head because I got a hate comment. I think, like, I have never really let these comments from the strangers get to me, which is a good thing now that I think of it. There is, like, this community is full of children. Like, it's full of young teens just getting started. For me personally, it's terrifying that I understand it now, that I'm not supposed to take these people into account, and I'm not supposed to take these comments personally, because these people feel anonymous. They can say anything on the internet and they will not pay the price. But when I think about young kids, young teens getting this sort of hate, and like it's unimaginable, really. I don't understand why this triggers so many people who are supposed to be adult, who are oftentimes parents, grandparents. This is terrifying. This is honestly terrifying. But yeah, it's a good thing that you ask, and I think I'm over it with the hate. Like, I don't really take it personally, and I just keep on moving, because it's not the community that's hating. It's the strangers on the internet and the other side of the world.
Well, Shetty, I'm going to call you Shetty. It's easier for me to just say
yes,
Shetty.
Sure.
So Shetty, first of all, I can't believe you're only 20 years old, because you got, like, the wisdom of someone who's knows what's going on. So I think that's very valid. And you brought up such valid points, because yeah, there's probably a lot of young girls, young people in this, and the fact that they have to get that too, it's a shame. It's too bad. So I appreciate what you shared. I was kind of shocked because I guess I go into things, I hope for the good of everybody. I know it's not reality, but I hope everyone has. When I saw your page, I was like, I thought it was so cool. I was like, this is awesome. This is fun to see what you're doing. You're bringing a community together. And then when I started reading the comments, I'm like, who are these people? Like, where? Anyway, it just blew me away. So the fact that you got that maturity about you is incredible. So thank you for that. That's like a breath of fresh air to know that you've got that maturity about you. All right. I want to go. Yeah, absolutely. I want to go. Okay. Just hobby horsing itself. For those unfamiliar like myself, can you kind of just give a brief explanation of what hobby horsing is, what it involves physically, creatively, that sort of thing? Have you ever felt the call of the open road, the desire to live life on your own terms, just like my guests on Journey with Jake? If so, you're not alone, and I have found the perfect haven for you. Check out landpirate.com, the virtual port for the free-spirited and home of the modern-day adventurer. Short sleeves, long sleeves hoodies, they have what you're looking for. Use the code JourneyWithJake to take an extra 15% off any purchase at checkout. I've got my Land Pirate gear and I love it. Check them out today. That's landpirate.com.
Yes, of course. There are a few sides to hobby horsing. So hobby horsing as a discipline, as a hobby, it consists of 3, let's say, major parts. And the first one is obviously the athleticism. If you see a video, it's running, jumping, this is athleticism. This is what athleticism is about. And people who complain about it being called a sport or something need to understand the actual definition of a sport. But we will get to that later, because we have the athleticism that is running, jumping, endurance, stamina, because these courses, they are often very long, very demanding, very height. So this is basically if we talk about jumping, this is more like harmless, but the course is more, let's say you have a lot more sharper turns. You just don't go into a straight line. You have a certain course that you need to remember. So we are going for the second major part of hobby horsing, which is the competition rules. And the rules in hobby horsing are actually taken from actual equestrian sports. What I call hobby horsing in a very short term is that hobby horsing is athleticism based on the horse riding rules. So this is the shortest possible way to describe hobby horsing. It's you get to see harmless, you get to see some, if we are talking about dressage, which is also introduced in horse riding. So dressage is basically when you have a certain program that you go without the jumps, but you have to do certain elements on a flat arena that are more or less demanding. So it's more about it's more comparable to a ballet or something. It's kind of a dance. So in the dressage, in horse riding, we also call it a dance with a horse.
Dance with a horse.
Yeah, it's like you have to go for certain gates and changes in the gates. And for somebody who is from the outside of from the equestrian community and they are not related to horse riding at all, hobby horse dressage just looks funny because they do not see any athleticism to it because they don't see the jumps. But that's not really the case, as dressage, just like dance or ballet, can also be demanding because there is a lot more body control involved, a lot more stiffness in throughout the muscles and stuff going on than in show jumping at times. So it's just different. Just like a dance is different to harmless. Yeah, we have the athleticism, we have the competition rules from horse riding, and also a very important thing that is also very much forgotten is the handmade part. Obviously, not every hobby horser does the handmade work, but a lot of these people are actual artists. Since the hobby horses that we have are mostly handcrafted, We do the handmade work. We do the sewing. We do the work with the leather, the equipment for them. It's usually all handmade work. And if somebody doesn't want to pursue that handmade craftsmanship, but also want to pursue hobby horsing, they can either buy a horse from a shop or buy a horse from an actual artist. And there are plenty of artists in hobby horsing, plenty of different horses. Just like you have a lot of different horses in real life, you can have, for example, if you're riding horses, you can have your actual real horse in a hobby horse version, which is very much appreciated by many people as well. These are the three sides to hobby horsing that are talked about in the community. So athleticism, the competition rules, and the handmade work. But what you see on the internet, which is mostly receiving the hate, is the role play part. And the role play part is like when you see people doing hobby horsing that act like horses. And the most important thing that people in the comments don't understand is that 99% of the cases, it's simply for entertainment and fun. And it's not like we identify as horses. It's like therianthropy or stuff. This is a completely separate thing. We do not identify as horses. We are not horses. We do not think these horses are real. But people on the internet think that that's why they hate. So the posts that go viral the most, obviously because the algorithm prefers hate, are the posts of people doing this entertainment stuff and acting like the horses are actually acting up, let's say. So I did a couple of videos of this kind as well. It's fun for the community. It's fun it's simply for entertainment. It's not like my horse is actually acting up. I do know that it's not acting up because it's not real. It's really interesting to see that people who comment actually believe that I think the horse is real. Which is, I think, to me, is the funniest part, right? Because I tested that with this idea with a couple of videos. A lot of my reels went really, really viral. And by viral, I mean like 20 plus million views. They're like, I tested that with this couple of reels. And I think the funniest part is not that in this couple of reels, I made it so obvious that it's satire. And still, people in the comments were like, do you know that this horse is not real? And I couldn't believe, because I made it very, 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 very much obvious that this is the content that I made for entertainment purposes. And it's obviously, it gives the visibility to the sport as well. Sometimes it is in a good manner, sometimes it is not, as you already know, because we are talking about the hate that it's receiving. Generally, it gives the visibility to the sport. So whether it be good or bad, it does give the visibility. And by that, there is a bigger chance that more people get involved because they start digging. There are pros and cons to that. This is something that I am also aware of. But social media is like testing the grounds with these obvious satire descriptions. I was sure that people would get that this is for entertainment, but they still didn't. So this shows me the level of the people that are commenting, which means that if these people do not understand, then there is no point of wasting my energy for them trying to understand, because these people are just not worth it. Yeah, that's how social media works, and unfortunately the algorithm is more about the hate always.
Yeah, it's too bad. It's too bad that that's the way it is. I like what you're doing. I feel like what you're doing is, I think your purpose behind it is to inspire others, especially this community. Maybe I'm off on that, but I think that's kind of the whole idea behind it for you. I want to know a little bit about some of your horses. did you design one after a real horse, or did you have someone create one for you, or do you create your own? How do you do it?
When I got my first hobby horse, it was actually like a horse that looked more like a sock, and my father brought it from a local store or something. It was way before I actually got into hobby horsing, as you know, like competitive hobby horsing and stuff. It was like 2016, I think. It was right after I saw the video, and I was like, yeah, I think I want to do this because I have already jumped on my feet a lot. And I was like, yeah, you know what? I like the idea of having the reins in front of me, standing in front of me and holding the reins. And it's like, yeah, I want to do this. So my dad brought me this black horse that looked like a sock. It was made, I don't know where it was made, but he said that he brought it from a local store. So I guess that was the case. It looked nothing like a horse, I can assure you, but it was something that helped me to like get further into the hobby horsing in itself after getting the feeling of, you know, having something in front of me, having the reins, and like being able to go around with this stick horse. After that, I started making my own hobby horses. Basically, every horse that you see on my videos, except for one, is made by hand by me along with the equipment. So like I used to sell the horses a lot more when I was still in school. I also used to sell equipment and make a lot of like custom tag for them, for the people. Unfortunately, I don't really have the time for this anymore, which is very sad because I love like this all creative process behind it. Yeah, after I started to a full-time job and graduated, it basically kind of got, yeah, it has become much more difficult to like have all these things with the social media, real horses, the work, and also the creative work, especially when you know you reach this point in life when you have the income. Like back when I did this creative work a lot, I didn't have a source of income because I didn't work like an actual job because I was still in school. So I had the time for that, and it was a way for me as a young person to make something for myself and, you know, make some money at a very young age, which was great, which was amazing. But then when I started like working the actual job, a full-time job, so working 9 to 5 and then adding up this creative part just purely to make more income is basically senseless. And you feel like you go from one job to another and it's pointless. So yeah, unfortunately, I don't really do the creative part that much anymore, though I would love to. The 99% of cases that you see people in hobby horsing, all this stuff is basically handmade.
It looks really neat. I saw some posts, and I clicked on a few of some of the links that you had kind of on some of your reels to look at just some horses. It was pretty neat. I mean, just kind of see. I mean, there's some. I think you had a bridle made for one. You had like a little mask made. I mean, you had some cool stuff for your horses, which I think is fun.
It's basically mirroring what we have in the equestrian world. So like the tag pieces, the bridles, all this stuff is basically mirroring the equipment that we have for real horses, except for the saddles, obviously. But with all the rest of the horses, so we can have different breeds of the horses that look different. We can have different manes, colors, markings on the face, shapes, sizes, like whatever. It's basically creative freedom, which is amazing. Which is also it also makes it an art, right? I think like this is something that is very often also pointed out in hateful comments for the cosplaying community, like the Comic Cons and this stuff. The cosplaying community also portrays the characters in hate-made suits, right? They do all this work, all this craftsmanship, which is amazing and absolutely beautiful what people can do with that. And they also receive a lot of hate because just because, people don't understand that somebody wants to do something completely harmless and just have fun. Just leave them alone, right? For some reason, we live in the world that is technically willing to be raise these awareness, acceptance, and stuff, but also at the same time, I feel like we are falling deeper and deeper into going into this endless circle of we want you to be this, but also you can be that. Yeah, it's like we technically have the creative freedom, but it's always about how you think of yourself, and not letting people define who you are. Stay with your people and you will be all right.
Can you take me through a competition? So, for example, as a competitor, if you're a competitor in a competition, what's kind of the day look like? You go in, you register. What's kind of give me just the lay of the land, so to speak, of if I was a competitor at a competition.
Sure, I can give you 2 points of views because I'm both competitor and the host at the same time. So as a competitor, we usually don't get enough sleep, but this is a universal thing, I guess. As a host, I get even less sleep, so this is also a universal thing. But the hobbyist competition is basically also mirroring, as we said, the horse riding competition, right? So we are all about the disciplines that we see in hobbyhorsing are the disciplines that we see in actual horse world. So we have the 2 most popular disciplines, which is show jumping and dressage. And show jumping is obviously about jumping over the obstacles. We have a couple of different types of classes in show jumping. So for example, you have the timing classes, so you have to be the fastest as you can. We also have the classes that are about penalty points and then time. So these are actually most popular because you have to go clear, so without drop down pulls and stuff. You have to go clear, and then the time is the secondary measure of your performance. So if you are slow but clean round, you are still better than someone who didn't get the clear round but was faster. So this is the most popular type. We also have style evaluation classes. Style evaluation is kind of similar to, for you to comprehend it better, I would say that it's a dressage on a show jumping arena. So you have to look stylish while jumping over the obstacles. If we go deeper into actual hobby horsing and how to do this, it's more about hunter jumping. Not sure if you are familiar with what hunter jumping is in equestrian world, but yeah, it's basically looking like it's easy for you. Let's say that the style evaluation classes are about making it look easy. So that's how it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be that the rhythm is supposed to be even. You're supposed to be you're supposed to show that this jumping course is just easy for you and it goes smoothly. This is the style evaluation. And also, so this is the basics of show jumping. When we go to dressage, which is this dance on the arena, let's say, it's you have a lot of different programs that you can go that are already presented by the hosts before the event begins, so that you have the time to prepare a certain program. But also we have something that is very popular in hobby horsing and in the horse riding world, which is the freestyle class. And freestyle classes are basically the programs that people prepare themselves and then perform to a music of their choice. So this is the most performative of all these dressage classes. And for the people that are not related to horse riding, when they see these dressage performances of real horses, and then, for example, the Gangnam Style is playing, they're okay, wow, so this horse goes to the beat, right? And it's basically fun. It's really fun to prepare for the hobby horses as well. Yeah, these are the very basis of show jumping and dressage. We also have Western, but it's very much undeveloped yet. So the Western is like, you won't see the rodeo in hobby horsing. You will not see herding the cattle. That will not work in hobby horsing. You could probably see some barrel racing and reining. I also tried some reining. Reining is like when you do the slide stop. Slide stop are like when the horse goes full speed and then stops suddenly. This is also very much fun. But since hobby horsing takes place at indoor arenas mostly, and the surface is not really suitable for Western riding, and Western riding has very specific requirements when it comes to the sand that it's used, because it actually has to be deep to do these weird, movements, the spins, the braking and all this stuff. Usually in hobby horsing we just have show jumping and dressage. Sometimes cross country, but cross country is also very demanding on the host, so not so likely.
I'm guessing then you have like some people who are judges that kind of give the scores and that sort of thing. Is that how that works?
Yeah. So as a competitor, I look for the clarity of what's going on. So for example, in hobby horsing, just like in horse riding, usually the classes go like from the lowest shoe jumping to the highest shoe jumping one by one. And then whether it be in the meantime or after shoe jumping or before shoe jumping, as the host prefers, goes dressage. So for example, as a host at our latest events, on our latest event 1 week ago that we hosted, we did dressage and show jumping at the same time because we had a lot of space to handle. And in the indoor arena, it's not always possible to have all this space to perform 2 classes at the same time. But yeah, with the judges, it's also very important to know the rules from the horse riding, so that you know that since the drop down pole usually equals 4 penalties. Drop down pole or a refusal, we call it a refusal, but it's basically like you don't attempt to jump the obstacle and you just stop or go around or whatever. You just avoid the whole jumping. You don't attempt to jump it at all, and then you have to do like this sort of a circle and jump it again. You cannot like just go around and continue, because it will cost you not only another 4 penalties, but also time to reattempt the jump.
So you do have the judges, they're looking at those type of things.
Yeah, we have the judges that it's their job to make sure that everybody follows the rules. So for example, since the International Hobby Horse Federation is like is in early development, we don't have the standardized set of rules yet, but it's going, and it's supposed to come out very soon, that member associations will have to follow at their international events. But for now, it's basically every association, every event host on their own. The basic rules in competition are like, for example, you can't let go of the horse, because that means that you kind of fell off the horse, and the whole point is to have the horse, so you can't let go of it completely. You also can't let go of the reins when you're jumping around, because that's also an elimination from the class. You obviously can't fall. That's also an elimination, in our case at least. So it's just like in actual horse riding, but in horse riding you don't really get penalized for letting go of the reins. But yeah, you do get penalized for the fall, for example. In hobby horsing, we had to kind of find a middle ground on how to make it fair for everyone, but also make it difficult. Since in hobby horsing, when you are holding the horse, like it kind of blocks your upper body in jumping. So this part is more difficult than actual harmless, because your upper body can't really work all this way that it normally would without the horse. So you have to find this way to go over the obstacle without using your upper body too much, because it's basically blocked by the horse. And so the most difficult part is to not swing your hands too much, because you're letting go the reins, and do not swing the horse too much, because that's kind of a fall. We are making things more challenging, definitely, but that's the whole point, because that's what makes it different to other sports.
And I'm guessing you want to be prepared for that. And so by being prepared for that, I'm sure you have to do things. I mean, you got to work out and stuff. I mean, you're jumping pretty high. I mean, I'm looking at some of these things you're jumping pretty high. So you've got to, I mean, you're like an athlete. You got to work out and you got to do exercises and things to prepare for this, right?
Yeah, of course. So in my case, obviously when I was younger, it was a bit different, but also I did other sports in school. So it was much different to what it is now. When I started hobby horsing, I was very much into handball. I played handball quite professionally. I did a national championship, blah, blah, blah. I did play handball and I did a lot of running. I was this one kid in the class because I was in a sports class in a sports school. I was this one kid that even though the profile of the class was handball, my coach dragged me to every possible running competition that was available. I need to say that I didn't enjoy it, but also it gave me a lot of athleticism back then. And I think it was also connected to the fact that when horse riding and hobby horsing came into picture, it was very easy for me to take up from there because I already jumped, ran a lot, and it was just very much smooth. Right now, after I finished school a couple of years back, it's basically me on my own, but what I do is regular running, gym, and then on the top of it is hobby horsing. So I do all this work to prepare my body for hobby horsing because, believe me or not, hobby horsing is the most demanding part because I just jump high, right? I jump much higher than I would normally do even in harmless. So there is a lot of strain on my body. There's a lot of sharp turns, and this body has to be prepared for that. And there is no way for me to prepare it other than actually do the work in the gym and do the work outside of hobby horsing. It's not physically possible. Right now I'm kind of in an off season when it comes to jumping because I was very, very busy with event hosting and all this stuff this past month. But when it's a competition season, I don't jump often, more often than 2 times a week. That's max. I don't do it more often than 2 times a week. I usually do it just once a week when I lease an arena, and that's it. So the other days is just pure running or gym work.
Interesting. Is it because you don't want to strain your body with those jumps? Is that kind of why? I mean, you got to get the practice, but I mean, maybe you don't want to overdo it. Is that kind of the reason you only do it once or twice?
Yeah, right. I mean, in hobby horsing, the jumps that I do, this is even in athletic training of a track and field athlete, you don't do these very high demanding jumping training more often than, let's say, 2 or 3 times a week. Even as a professional, you do the work in the days in between. You do all the stretching, the strength training and all this stuff. You can't go around 6 days a week doing this high performance jumping training. For me, this high jumping is the most demanding part, and that's why I feel the need to have these all other days to prepare my body for it. Yeah, I do feel like this is the most, I don't mean to say that any other training is less demanding. That's not true. It just, for me personally, this jumping that I do, which is, for example, we have a couple of obstacles that are 1 meter 30 centimeters. Not sure how many in feet that is, but that's, let's say it's around my neck, something like this. This is very much demanding on my body, and I feel the need personally since this is the most demanding part of the week in the training for me, I feel the need to use these other days to prepare for this one jumping day or this 1 or 2 jumping days. So yes, for me personally, this is the most demanding part of training. That's just me. But also we have lots of different types of athletes that are doing their more training, like the strength training and stuff, and this is the most demanding part for them. I don't do a lot of lifting, obviously, because I don't need it, but I do some lifting at the gym with a coach who I also very much love, and he knows that I do hobby horsing, and he helps me to prepare for hobby horsing, which is amazing. For me personally, this is just the way that I have figured out how to prepare my body for hobby horsing. Because, well, basically, since I don't really compete in track and field anymore, I used to, but I don't anymore. I don't compete in handball anymore, and I don't plan to, really. Like, I don't plan to go into professional sports. It's just too much strain, and I don't trust my legs with that. Since hobby horsing is the only sports, the only sport that I do competitively, like on my own. I also do horse riding competitively in show jumping, but like I say about hobby horsing as something that only requires my legs and not the horse's legs. So the sports that I do on my own, the competitively, is basically just hobby horsing at this point. Used to be more, but now it's just hobby horsing. So my training is about being prepared for hobby horsing and not any other sport really. So that's how it works for me. But it might work differently for other people.
Sure. Yeah, we're all different, so we all have our own unique ways. For you, Shetty, what has hobby horsing helped you? How has it helped you grow personally, or what's it done for you personally?
This is a good question. This is a really good question. If I weren't into horses, I have no idea how my life would have unfolded. I have absolutely no idea, because basically when I got into horse riding, then I also began this handmade work. Then I saw hobby horsing, and hobby horsing has become a part of me very quickly because it connected all three things that I loved, which we mentioned in the beginning. It introduced me to so many things in life that I wouldn't have learned otherwise. By that I mean the handmade works, the craftsmanship, being able to sell my handcrafted work, which at the age of, let's say, 14, 15, 16, is an amazing thing to do because you get to learn lots of how money works while still being dependent on your parents, obviously, but you kind of learn how to be more independent because you can buy your own stuff and you don't have to consult it. You have earned it and you can buy it on your own. So I absolutely loved to be able to provide for myself for the stuff that I wanted to do. It was way before I had any chance of an income from social media. And it's not like social media has been a major part of my income anyways, but with time when you grow the profile, that there come some opportunities. But going back to how hobby horsing influenced me, then I would say that these handmade works, being able to sell them and being able to work for myself, to be able to buy the things that I want without, having to ask my parents for that. I didn't want to ask my parents for that. I don't come from a family that is, I'm not saying that my family has ever been poor, because that's not the case. That would be insulting, because I feel very lucky to be able to do horse riding. But it's not like the money has always been there when we needed it. It was very important for me. If I wanted to buy some cool stuff for myself or for my horse, then I had to earn it. And I did earn it because I was able to sell things that I made myself. And then in the picture, when I was still a teenager, came event hosting. And event hosting is something that is absolutely not profitable when it comes to money. It's not profitable in hobby horsing, in this part of hobby horsing that I wanted to influence. It's not profitable at all, but it was fun for me to be able to give something to community. And it still is. It's a lot of work. It's definitely not worth it in a sense of money, but it's worth it in a sense of giving it to the community and giving it for myself as I did it. Then it came the event hosting. I hosted my first competition when I was I think it was 6 years ago. No, sorry, 5 years ago now. So I was 15 when it was hosted. It was the biggest competition in Poland for hobby horsing that we had at the time. We had 40 people. It's not a lot right now, but it was a lot back then. And we hosted it. We had these 40 people. They were They enjoyed it very much. We obviously had some delays and we learned from our mistakes. Then we hosted the second edition a year later, which doubled the amount of competitors that we had. This year, we are going for the 5th edition of our biggest event. And this is the second international edition of the event. And this year, we are having almost 40% of the competitors that are from abroad, which is, I think this is amazing. And it feels very rewarding when it comes to being the host, Since I was a host when we hosted the first international edition last year, I was still in my teenage years. It felt amazing to be able to feel like, okay, so these events have kind of grown with me. So yeah, I mean, this summer we are having 5 events in total, but the season final is iReventing, and it's coming in September, so it's the international one. So as a host, it's demanding, but it's rewarding.
I think it's amazing that not only are you a competitor, you're also a host. That's got its own challenges in and of itself. I know we kind of dove quite a bit on the whole hate part. I want to switch it to the other part though, the part of, not the word love, but the part of seeing people who recognize you and really appreciate you. I saw some posts of some girls getting your autograph and people, you just being a great example to these young ladies. What's that like when you get that kind of feedback from some of these younger folks?
Yeah, I actually have a funny story about that, because it's been years since I have heard from the people when I competed, from the people that came around to just greet me, to say that they are motivated thanks to me, and it feels amazing. It hasn't really hit me that hard until this year, actually, when I was invited to Czech Republic to come it was February, March, from literally the end of February. I was invited to Czech Republic by their association to come to their event and perhaps compete, but generally it was for judging, and then on the other day it was coaching. So they organized this whole day of coaching with me, and I have never ever in my life signed so many things within one weekend that I did when I was there. And these kids from the community, they just kept coming. They were like, thank you for making this content, thank you for getting me into hobby horsing, because they might have seen a video of my jumping and then they were like, okay, that's cool, I want to do it too. And then they got into community, then they got into hobby horsing, and that's how they basically, now they are competing, right? It hasn't really hit me that hard until this trip to Czech that I have had, because it has always been like, when I started to jump this height, I started to share this content and I became very prominent part of the community, let's say, because I'm just known within the community for the jumping. When I realized that they have all came there to get something signed by me because they adore the jumping, the content and all this stuff, I have never wanted to be an influencer, I don't want to be an influencer still. I don't influence myself. I influence my skills, and that's what I would like to keep sharing with the community. So the jumping, the skill, the hobby horse tips, the entertainment, and just this fun part of hobby horsing, this is what I share. And I do not feel like an influencer, and I have never wanted to be one. When I had these people coming and they were like, thank you for getting me into hobby horsing, this felt amazing. This really felt amazing, and it's nothing like I have ever received in my life when it comes to, just from a stranger perspective. These are people that I only know from the community, because that's how they got into the community. They might have seen a video. It just felt amazing, and I have absolutely no words. It was something very surprising for me, but also something that kind of helped me to understand that this community is really worth the work that I've been putting into it. From my side, from as a content creator, as an event host, as the chair of the association, it's amazing.
It's awesome. I think that's amazing. And when I see that, and I just see the looks on their faces, they're like, just like, it's Shetty. She's signing my stuff for me. So I think that's wonderful. I think that's amazing. What does the future hold for you? What are you kind of looking to do? Do you want to stay involved with this community? Do you have any, I don't know. What do you got? Because I know you've got a full-time job now, so you got a lot going on. What does the future look like for you?
That's a tough question, That's a really tough question. I have no idea what I'm about to do in the 5 years' time. I have no idea. I mean, this is actually pretty funny because when it comes to the job part, I decided not to go into the university because I felt like my sector of job market is just so far ahead that universities that I had in my reach in my country and general idea of university, now that the technology is so fast and it just like the pace is so fast, we can't really catch up to this. I feel like in my particular case, university was senseless with the experience that I have gained and like the sense of myself that I have got to know throughout the years. I feel like I didn't belong to university, and it might change obviously in the future, maybe. Right now with the job part, which is weird to say, but on the job part, I have achieved and I'm on the right track with everything that I have wanted to achieve. I have got the promotion that I wanted. I have got a job that I wanted, and it's weird because it's just weird, It's not like I don't have any goals at the moment. My goal right now is to be able to manage my time in a way that doesn't make me exhausted. Because with all the things that I have going on right now, I'm becoming really tired, and it doesn't mean that I'm burnt out of anything. It doesn't mean that I'm burnt out of horse riding or hobby horsing or my job. Like it's not the point. I don't really feel burnt out of any of these, but I'm just tired because when I took upon myself some additional things, I didn't have all these other things going on that I have now. At a certain point, it's kind of piling up. So as much as I love hosting and social media and all this stuff, I'm kind of looking forward to September to take a deep breath and just chill for a bit.
Not a bad idea. Shetty, this has been fascinating to me. I really appreciate who you are. I didn't know what I was going to get involved with when you agreed to talk to me. I'm like, I see your videos and things, but I just didn't know what you were about. And you're an amazing person. You're doing some amazing things. That's why I love doing this show, because I get inspired. It doesn't matter that you're only 20. I had an 84-year-old on. I've had as young as 11-year-old on the show. Amazing. It's amazing what you're doing. My final question, we've been chatting for quite a while and I don't want to take up all your time, but my final question to you, Journey with Jake, it's about your journey. It's about who you are, but it's about adventure. For you, Shetty, what does adventure mean to you?
I think an adventure is mostly, it's not only about getting to travel for adrenaline, but it's not a physical adventure just like this. It's like about having the adventure in your head as well with yourself. So the adventure can be about how you grow. And in the end, I think the most important thing is defining the adventure is that if you are content with how your journey has been looking so far, and if you're not, think about how to change it so that you're content with it in the future.
Love it. That's fantastic. Shetty, thank you so much for coming on Journey with Jake.
Thank you so much. I had a lot of fun.
Thank you so much to Shetty for joining me and sharing her story. If you want to see more of her journey and what hobby horsing looks like in action, be sure to follow her on Instagram at KHT_Shetty. And that's SHETTY. And to you, my listeners, thank you for being here with me each week. I'd love to hear from you. Reach out and let me know what your favorite episode has been or how this show has inspired you on your own journey. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss next week's conversation with Gar Russell. Gar's love for traveling in an RV led him to create Fireside RV Rental. But what makes this story truly special is how his love for God and his family have made the adventure that much richer. You won't want to miss it. Until then, keep chasing your adventures and just remember, it's not always about the destination as it is about the journey. Take care, everybody.